Well, let's see. My clock just hit noon, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome. I'm Heidi Garvin from GROW Nebraska, and I'd like to welcome you all to our July 3rd Thursday training. We have these every month on a variety of topics, and we try and keep them free and open to the public, and that would not be possible without the help of some of our wonderful sponsors. So our sponsor for today is actually Dawson Public Power District, and we have Dave on the line to tell us a little bit about what they do for the community and for economic development.
Hi, well, thank you for the introduction. Yes, Dawson Public Power has been a member of GROW Nebraska for a few years now. We explored joining after having a conversation with Janelle. I looked at our business community that we have, and we had a significant number of our small entrepreneur, small businesses that were members of GROW, and we decided, we need to help support these businesses. That's another type of way to do that. So we joined at that time, and we've also tried to help host some conferences for our local business communities with GROW leading the way on that, and it's been a nice tool for us to have to work with those customers. I will also say Dawson Public Power is very involved economic development-wise with both some community development programming, and we manage and we have our own revolving loan fund that we use for projects that are in our service territory. On top of that, we are also members of the Nebraska Enterprise Fund, which focuses on revolving loan funds for entrepreneurs, and that's a statewide organization. So regardless where you may be in the state of Nebraska, there are some funding opportunities out there to help support the growth and expansion of your business. So if you have questions, by all means, contact GROW, and there's plenty of other resources out there. So thank you very much for allowing us to help support this conference today.
Well, thank you so much for all of your support. So Dawson Public Power District has been an amazing supporter of GROW Nebraska and small businesses. We have Jim Crandall on the line today, and he is going to be talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly that goes along with shared business ownership. So, Jim, I'll let you take it away.
Okay, thanks, Heidi. Can you hear me okay? If anyone has trouble hearing me, speak up, and I'll change my arrangement here. As Heidi said, my name is Jim Crandall. I am with the University of Nebraska Extension out of Lincoln, although I live out in the south central part of the state near Holdridge. And Dave, I want to thank Dawson Public Power for sponsoring this program. That's great. We appreciate it very much. My background has been in education, I guess pretty much all through my career, with a large part of that time spent with a variety of businesses and their development. Pretty much from almost the beginning of my career, I taught high school and then a little bit in college, and was with Extension back in the 70s in both Nebraska and Wyoming. I then worked for a private multinational corporation, but also that work was also focused on small local businesses that I helped with their development. I have my own business, a couple of them, and since 2000, I've been back at the university working with our little corner of the world. It's called the Nebraska Cooperative Development Center, and our focus is on helping folks in rural Nebraska that have a cooperatively owned business. So primarily we're talking about limited liability companies and new cooperatives. We help folks form those businesses. We kind of lead them through the process of getting started, and in doing so, we help with their product focus, helping them organize a steering committee, because all of those businesses eventually are governed by a board of directors once it gets created. But So we work with bringing a group of like-minded people together to begin to develop the business idea. We help with feasibility, market analysis, business planning, incorporation, member recruitment because it's a shared ownership business, and then marketing and distribution. So we kind of get to touch a little bit of lots of different kinds of businesses in our work. So as you guys know, obviously with your business has started with an idea of what you wanted to do with your proposition for a business, and involved some kind of product that you're marketing. And as you began your business, whether it's new or if you've been around a while, obviously you had to identify what resources that you needed to help make that happen, whether it was financial resources, whether it was buildings, land, equipment, vehicles, sourcing product or ingredients or whatever it might be. All of that, those resources you had to focus and bring together to help make that happen. So what I just wanted to talk a little bit, as Heidi said, the kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly of sharing your business with someone else. As a possibility, it has some opportunities, and we'll talk about that a little bit. There's some drawbacks as well that you need to be aware of, and then there's some kind of ugly things that can happen that I want to mention also. So with all of those discussions, whether it's a sole proprietorship or some other arrangement or a shared arrangement, shared ownership, mostly what I want to focus on is your business liability. You need to protect yourself and your personal assets by doing a risk assessment for your business. Protect yourself however it's possible, whether it's through insurance or incorporation or whatever. I know we have a lot of businesses that I've been in touch with over the years that are operating as a sole proprietorship, which is fine. But you need to be aware of some of the liability issues that you may have, and protect yourself, like I said, with insurance. If we do a lot of work helping businesses get started. Part of that job in helping a business get started is asking kind of ugly questions about what if the worst happened, what if you got sued, what if your product caused injury, whatever it might be. How can you defend yourself, and what do you have at risk? If you're sole proprietorship and you're not protected through a good insurance policy, your personal assets may be at risk in a negative situation. So that's one of the reasons that we looked at other business arrangements, particularly we get clear on the other end where we have multiple owners. We may have 10 or we might have 200 owners of a business, but we're always concerned about what's my personal liability as an owner of a business, and some of that goes along with taxation and stuff and what works best. But just be aware of where you are in the risk assessment of your own business. So I want to talk about shared ownership a little bit. Why would you even consider it? And these are the things that I really enjoy about the kind of work that I do right now, is that I get to work with a group of people who have an idea for a business, and they may share a product in production or thought or visualization, however you want to put it. They have a common goal that they all want to market a similar product from their business. Many of our businesses early on in our formation were ag-related or value-added ag, so it's a little simpler to understand. We worked with lots of folks that were, say, cattle producers, and they wanted to direct market their beef to the consumers instead of one guy doing it and risking running out of product or having all the financial resources committed to a new business. If you put together 10 or 12 people that have a similar goal, you've got better supply, you've got better consistency through the market, shared resources, and all those things. So having shared ownership allows you probably the opportunity to maybe grow your business a little faster, simply because you have more people working on it. You get to share some of the burdens of starting the business or developing and growing the business with other people. You also get to share the enjoyment of what you're doing. Hopefully you enjoy your business and what you're developing, and it's always fun to share that with somebody who gets it, who understands what it is you're doing. You also are sharing some of the rewards, and whether it's financial, emotional, social, whatever it might be. That shared ownership is a fun way to do business. We've enjoyed it a lot. I think one of the things that we have particularly enjoyed is the idea of bringing together, particularly on steering committees, but as the membership has developed there as well. But you get to bring together a group of people with a various amount of talents in different areas, and we are able then to utilize different individual talents for a common business. For example, someone may be very good at financial planning or understanding the financial end of a business, while someone else is really great at production. We also have people who do not want to interact with the public, but are great at pulling everything together internally. And then there's folks that love to talk to people, and so they have good skills in marketing and spreading the news, if you will, about the business. So being able to assemble all of those kinds of talents together is one of the big rewards, I think, in that shared ownership model. So as I mentioned, we work primarily with limited liability companies, small ones, closely held, 2 or 3 people, all the way up to multiple owners, quite a large number. As we get into the cooperatives, those typically involve a larger number still, and we'll talk just briefly about that when we get a little bit farther on. But I wanted to give you an idea of what is available in Nebraska as legal entities that are typically being used for businesses. We have, obviously, the sole proprietorship, where you're the individual. You control it all. You're responsible for all the resources, the inputs, the production, the marketing, all of it. It's kind of your baby. You may hire people to help you do that, absolutely, but ultimately the buck stops with you. There is available in Nebraska some partnership arrangements, whether it's a general partnership, a limited partnership, or a limited liability partnership. Now, all 3 of those have different aspects, and if you're considering any of those as an avenue for a legal incorporation or a move to one of those, you need to understand what is the responsibility and the operational aspects of each of those kinds of shared ownership. Most of those, in general partnerships, an obligation might be incurred on behalf of the partnership by any one of the partners. So you may not even know that your partner went out and thought they had a good deal on a new pickup and bought it for the business without you knowing, but you're committed, you're obligated by that action of the partner. Limited partnerships and limited liability partnerships also have some of those same obligations, although typically there are more arrangements that are written as that business is developed that outlines what the obligations are and what the restrictions are on any one of the partners. But those 3 partnership levels are available. Past that, you get into true corporations. You probably have heard of S corporations and C corporations. C corporation is just your normal, everyday corporate structure that you would be exposed to, like on Wall Street, the Ford Motor Company or whatever, the C corporation. Where the S corporation is, both of those are related to the tax statutes, subchapter S. Is often used in a lot of Nebraska farm operations because you can have multiple owners, family members all be a part of that, and yet have a corporate structure that protects everyone individually. And then past those corporate structures, we also have limited liability companies and cooperatives and limited co-op associations, which are also all corporations. But just, again, another business structure that is regulated and functions in different fashions. So if you want to share the ownership of your business so that you can tap into other resources, tap into other expertise that you may be lacking, or just because you need to share the workload, if nothing else. Look at what you might be doing. Oftentimes, particularly in the last several years, limited liability company is one of those structures that people choose as a multiple owner company, whether it's husband and wife or family members or friends or whatever. It's fairly easy to use, and it has limitations on where your liability stops. So those are the good things about shared ownership. You can, you're not responsible for funding everything. You may be able to share that funding with a partner or a group of people that are joining in with you. When you start to look at some of the bad, quote unquote, not really bad, but things, at least considerations you need to think about when you share ownership of your business with someone else. That means you personally have to give up some of that control of your business to that partner. Even if you have a silent partner who simply provides funding to help you get going, that silent partner typically expects a return on their investment, and so some of that investment return is money out of the business pocket, if you will. So anytime that you have shared ownership, you have some aspect of your business that is going to be utilized, controlled, or whatever by someone else. Shared ownership means you have to respect the opinions of others and do not what's best now maybe personally for that business, but what's best for the business, considering other owners that might be involved with it. So there's difference of opinions, and you have to physically and mentally work through how you're going to deal with a difference of opinions in your business. You may have different work styles. Somebody's an early to bed and early to rise. Somebody else is a night owl. Those can be conflicting work styles. So understanding how your partner or partners might work with you on this business, if they're involved in the day-to-day or month-to-month operations, different work styles sometimes can be a conflict. The other thing is the commitment. You may be up to your eyeballs committed in your business, and you are excited about it, and you want it to grow. Your partners may not share that passion that you do. Hopefully they do. Hopefully that's who you want to partner with if you add others to the ownership arrangement of your business. But be aware that there's going to be a different level of commitment by individuals who are in this business. I would encourage you, whatever shared arrangement, if you consider that at all, that you would have in your business, make sure that you have adequate working agreements in place and written down. Don't assume that everybody understands how this is going to work. Write it down, even if it's a simple understanding. Make sure it's on paper someplace so that you have it to refer to in the future, 5 years, 10 years, whatever down the road. So that's part of your corporate record. Have those agreements in place. Who does what, who's responsible for what. Don't assume everyone knows anything. And it may also address different scenarios, which we'll get to a little bit in maybe some of the ugly part, and that might be if someone wants out of the business. So let's just jump onto the ugly. What we have seen in certain situations, maybe one of the partners in your business that has been with you, helped you develop the business, their situation changes and they lose interest and they want to sell their part of the business. That's one of the things that it needs to be arranged for in advance. Who is eligible to buy their share of the business? You don't want someone to enter your business because a partner wants out that does not agree with your philosophy of how this business is being operated. So typically those kind of arrangements allow the rest of the owners first chance to buy that person's share of the business. That's one arrangement. The other is that the rest of the partners would have to agree to accept a new partner if they were selling to someone, so that you don't get someone that just completely wants to change the directions that you're moving. So losing interest, that happens. We have people change Obviously, as they go through their lifetime, their priorities change, their family situations change, financial situations change, and health situations change. We've seen lots of businesses change hands or change their level of operation simply because of a health crisis or a health issue with one of the owners. So remember, in shared ownership, you may be liable for the actions of your partners. Make sure that's understood up front and it's outlined in your ownership agreement so that you know everyone can't represent the business and go off and do their own thing without committing everyone else to it at the same time. How are you going to handle those kind of things? As I mentioned, there's personal crises, health, financial crises. You need to think that through a little bit. What if the financial situation of one of your key partners changed and they were no longer able to honor maybe their financial commitment to the business that has been ongoing with all of the partners? How does that affect your business? So consider those kinds of things. And finally, you need to consider also the potential that your business, that it was your brainchild, your development, your idea, your passion. With shared ownership, there is the potential that your business might end up in someone else's control. I've been involved in, and it wasn't with work, it was a situation of some friends that I know in another state that started the business, brought in some investors and partners into the business, and eventually the partners got enough control of the business and they sided against the guy that originated the business, and he was basically booted out. So be aware of those kinds of situations. You kind of have to think through the ugly part of life when you consider shared ownership of your business as a possibility. As I mentioned, there's lots of advantages to doing it that way, but you need to consider all of the ramifications as much as you can foresee. So that's just a little touch on the good, the bad, and the ugly. We have been successful in helping to create a lot of multi-owner businesses in the last 15 years in Nebraska that have functioned well. I mentioned the idea of bringing lots of people together with different personalities, different skill sets, different financial arrangements has been an advantage. I will also tell you that some of those are also some of the challenges. If you have 10 people and 10 personalities, sometimes you have conflicts amongst the board on how the business should be moving forward. That's fairly normal. You just need to be prepared for that. How do you deal with conflicts on a board situation or group ownership? But if you can overcome those kind of things, there's a lot of strength in a group of people moving a business forward as opposed to an individual. Certainly not suggesting that individuals can't do it, because obviously it's being done every day and being done well. So past a legal shared ownership, the other thing I just wanted to mention is I think some of you may have the opportunity to enter into some type of a cooperative marketing arrangement that would allow you and others of like mind or like products or like venues for distribution might be able to come together in some kind of arrangement to share the marketing and distribution, if nothing else, of your various products. Clearly, that's very much what happens with GROW Nebraska. And if you look at the retail stores, that's clearly a cooperative marketing arrangement. You have an arrangement with GROW that you will bring your products to that storefront. They will market it. They get a part of the value of your product as a charge against their investment in operating that store. That's a cooperative arrangement. I've seen others that, depending on how far they have to go with distribution, they may share transportation. If they're both distributing at a similar location, this week I take our stuff and next week you take our stuff, that kind of a thing. I've seen businesses that market together if your products are somehow complementary with another business. How about a cooperative marketing arrangement on advertising, where not only do we sell the barbecue grill, but here's the tools that go with the barbecue grill, or here's the sauces and the rubs, or whatever it might be. Those kind of cooperative arrangements for marketing are oftentimes beneficial. So, sit back, open your mind a little bit, look at, I know everyone gets so busy with the day-to-day operation of the business that kind of have to make yourself stop and dream a little bit. One of our approaches with our cooperative businesses that we help create, we encourage our board of directors to at least annually set aside a day to do nothing but dream. Strategy, however you want to look at it. Let's not conduct business. Let's not make decisions. Let's just daydream about what else we could be doing. Where else could we be going? What other products fit our business? Whatever is wild, and then we narrow it down to what's practical, what's feasible, what makes business sense, and all those things. But allow yourself some time someplace in your business to just think outside the box. I know that's a phrase that's used a lot, but it really does fit. Get out of that day-to-day or month-to-month operation and just dream a little about what else could you be doing? Where else could you be going? What else might be a benefit to my business? So besides that legal shared responsibility of a business, you've got other possibilities, like I said, of cooperative marketing, distribution, transportation, shared time. If I'm taking it this week and I'm stocking our shelves for both businesses, and you're doing it next week, that frees up both our time a little bit to do something else. So with that, I'm going to come into some questions. I know some of you submitted questions to Heidi, I think, before the session started. If you have questions that you've thought of while I've been going on and on here, we'll have a chance to answer those as well. But one of the questions that was presented was if there were any small business investor groups or brainstorming groups specific to an area that a person might join as a part of their business development. And I think the GROW Nebraska is a perfect example of a brainstorming group. If you attend GROW's trainings and participate in their programs that they have kind of all over the state, one of the big advantages of those kinds of activities, and GROW is great at doing it, but there's other business situations where you might put yourself in a room with other entrepreneurs. The networking that happens is probably one of the more valuable things that you take away from those kinds of experiences. So try to participate in a variety of trainings wherever you can, because that puts you in a room with people that are facing some of the same types of business challenges and successes that you are. So that would be one suggestion. Just those kinds of training opportunities get you in a room of people that are also going through what you're going through. As far as the investor groups, I'm not aware of anything specific. Depends a little bit on where you are in the state as to what might be available. Clearly, if you're in a very rural part of the state, it's a little harder to find a group of investors or folks interested in investing in businesses. If you go on the Department of Economic Development's website, there is a listing of some possibilities for venture capital, such as Invest Nebraska, the Midlands Venture Forum, Nebraska Angels Incorporated, Nebraska Global are just some ideas of where there might be some venture capital, if that's kind of what you're asking here. But again, be aware that there's very little in this world that comes free without strings. Most of the investor groups that I've, been aware of and seen in operation, they kind of want a cut of the action. There's very few of them that just give you the money and wish you good luck. So consider again what it is you're giving up when you have outside investors that are not a part of the business. You're going to take their money to help grow your business. There's probably strings attached somehow. So even some of the crowdfunding that you see now on internet applications, some of those, there's an expectation that whoever invests in your business might have some advantage come from that investment. So one other program that some of the folks that I kick around with at the University and Extension that have been exposed to is the Ice House Entrepreneurship Program. Maybe some of you are aware of that. It's sponsored by the Ewing Marion Coughlin Foundation. And it's an opportunity for you to grow your business, your entrepreneurial mindset, and some of the opportunities that you might have in a more global situation. I mean, not global from the business sense, but that you get to be participating with a group of learners that are doing the same kind of things that you are, and it kind of gets you immersed in some entrepreneurial experiences that you may not have in your local area. So you might check into that, the Ice House Entrepreneurship Program. There's a cost to doing that, but might open some doors for you in terms of growing your business, and then again, networking with other entrepreneurs. So another question that came in is, how do we reestablish a trust in our product after we purchase that product from a prior owner? In other words, someone took over a business that had a product. Now we have new owners. How do we reestablish trust in our product? Some of that is obviously very situational. Kind of depends on your arrangement with the folks that you bought the business from or bought the products from. Are they willing to help you with that transition? That typically is a kind of an ideal situation where they will vouch for the new owners, that the development of the product will continue to go forward, and you can still trust what's happening, that it's still got the good reputation behind it. That's one way. If that's not possible, I think you're probably looking at a fairly intense marketing program that not only puts that product in front of everyone again, along with your name and your business, so that they know that this product is still in production. So if you have questions more specific to that kind of thing, Heidi's going to share my contact information and be more than happy to visit with anyone individually if you'd rather. But, that would be my suggestions. I've seen this happen where one business is sold to another, and so you got new owners in an established business. How do we make that transition so that we don't slide backward and lose the audience that's already come to trust those products or that business? Another question is, I guess, how do we find, this is very specific, how do we find livestock users for land rental? And I'm not, again, that might be one I'd need a little bit more information on, particular to what the question is or what the situation is, more so. In my neck of the woods, I live out in the country, and it's typically not difficult. If I have pasture for rent or corn stalks or whatever it might be for rent, it's not very difficult for me to find local farmers or ranchers that are willing to rent that from me. So I'm not sure what that situation is. If the owner of the land is someone who lives in an urban area and maybe don't have the connections to the farmers or ranchers in a rural area, or it's removed from their location, that might be a little more challenging. Typically, in that situation, like if I lived in Omaha and I had land in the Sandhills, I don't know very many people in that particular area. Who would I turn to? I'd probably look at bankers and realtors as a source of information on who might have interest in renting some of my land. So, again, I'd be happy to try to follow up with anyone on that. Then the other question, maybe a little bit related to that, the other question that we had was finding a business-minded partner to manage 100 acres outside of Lincoln. And again, some of that may be situational to your location. My suggestion would be is if you can find a good farmer in that area that is known by people and has been around a while and respected, that typically means that farmer is a pretty good business person as well. But again, the bank, local bank in that area, if it's outside of Lincoln, hopefully it's near a small town that maybe a banker would be familiar with local farmers who would be good managers as well. Kind of depends on what it is you want from that arrangement. Do you want them to manage it? Do you want them to help you manage it? Those kinds of situations. So I apologize. Got another line here. It's going to ring for a little bit. But so that would be my suggestion for absentee landowners. Find someone in the area that is well respected as a good farmer or rancher. That will get you some leads, I guess, on helping to manage that property. So with that, that's, I think, all of the questions that I was aware of that were submitted ahead of time. Again, if I didn't answer your question, please speak up or give me a call later. But are there other questions that came to mind while we were visiting? Well, I either did a really good job or everybody's asleep. So. And I know that that may not generate questions. You may think of something later. That's why don't be at all hesitant to give me a call or send me an email.
I think that was lots of wonderful information, Jim. I especially love the idea of spending a day daydreaming.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And I can tell you, like I said, most of the businesses that we work with are governed and run by a board of directors. So we'll have a board of 6, 7, 8, 9 people, depending on their business. And there's always a little hesitation by those folks because they've worked so hard, and I understand that. They've worked so hard and so long to get this business up and going that it's kind of like, well, we don't need to waste time. We got to keep moving here. But every one of those businesses that we finally kind of talked into, take the pressure off, sit back, relax, go someplace where there's no phones, bring some refreshments so you can kind of enjoy yourselves, sit back and just daydream. And the rules of how you do that, whether it's yourself or whether it's with other people, what we suggest is nothing's off limits. It might be the craziest idea that you've ever heard from your partner, but, we put it on the board. We list everything. We get it all up there. Then we kind of start to group ideas together. If you're doing this by yourself, it's probably a little more difficult, but I'd encourage you to do that. Just daydream a little bit. Throw out ideas, write them down, let them simmer. Some of those things may rise to the top. I think the other thing that's interesting with almost all of our businesses, the products or services that they began to offer when they started their business, 5 years later, oftentimes is very different. Or they found a better pathway to business than where they thought they were going. They entered business, they were successful, they got going, and that helped them discover new opportunities. And really, that's what we're talking about. Don't be afraid to stop and lift your head up and look around. See what other opportunities there might be for your business. Other questions?
Well, I know we had a lady in Lincoln who said she would be unable to attend the training today, but she was looking for a little more information on kind of the differences between just letting people use her retail store to sell their products, or whether she should actually partner with them so that they have some responsibility for what's in the store as well.
Yeah, and I think that's, those are two very different business situations. One is kind of a shared responsibility for those products or that space. The other is almost a contractual arrangement where the owner of the store has obligations to provide the space, the heating, the lights, the hours, the staff, whatever it might be, the provider of the product. They have their responsibilities, whatever it might be. Bring it, have it always in stock. Because if that one business runs out of stock, that does affect the rest of the store's presentation. So, there's shared responsibilities there. But I know we have several businesses that are not really truly a cooperative, but it's almost a cooperative arrangement where you'd have vendor space almost in a store. You've got your little 5x7 space, and it's up to you to keep it up. We will sell it for you. We'll ring it up. We'll keep it all, the transactions all separate, but it's your job to maintain that space. That's opposed to bringing your product, putting it on the shelf with almost a supplier situation more than a vendor situation. So I think that's somewhat situational. It depends on that business in particular and the businesses they want to quote-unquote partner with and how that arrangement might work. But as I said earlier, with most of these arrangements, I think the biggest key to it is everybody write it down. Even if it's not a formal contract, but we need to have our understanding of how this is going to operate written down. And then if we need to make some changes, we agree on those changes, but it's still written down. We've always got something to go back to instead of assuming that everybody understands how this is going to work. That's where I see the bigger problems come up is, well, I thought I could do this, and no, you can't do that, that kind of stuff. And Heidi, you can certainly have that person give me a call if they want to visit about that a little bit more.
Perfect. Are there any other questions?
I have a suggestion.
Yes.
This is Griselda with the Center for Rural Affairs, and I work with Latino business owners in the southeast region in Nebraska. And I also did a beginning Latino farmer workshop. Worked with Erin, not sure how to pronounce her last name. She's also through the Center for Rural Affairs. And with the Latino farmers, there was a lot of them that were questioning how to find somebody that they can rent the land from. So those of you that had questions as to how to find someone to rent land to, getting a hold of Erin would be a suggestion for them, because you might know some potential people that could rent or are willing to rent land depending on the area.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. I agree wholeheartedly. I did some beginning farmer workshops with the Latino population in Lexington, out my direction, with Erin. Had the opportunity to talk to them 2 or 3 times, kind of about this cooperative idea. But in that process, I know one of the biggest questions every one of those individuals or families had is, where can we get some land? Probably one of the I guess, leading the charge kind of organizations in that respect is Community Crops in Lincoln. They've been pretty successful, starting from a little bit of a few plots of ground for gardeners in Lincoln, particularly some of the ethnic groups, to growing their operation to bigger properties on the edge of town that are not, inside the city blocks or whatever. So you might be able to quiz Community Crops as well about some ideas on that. But I know in the area around Lexington, one of the things that we talked about was some of it is just letting farmers know that there are folks that are wanting to get started with farming, and depending on what it is they want to farm. Many of the ones I worked with in Lexington were looking at produce as one way to get started, but the others were wanting to start with livestock. And so if they were going to get a few cows or pigs or sheep or whatever, they needed more than just a garden plot. They needed some land for pasture or buildings or whatever it might be. So it's a little bit different, kind of depends. But I guess the thrust of all of that was in Lexington was letting area farmers know. I know there's abandoned farmsteads that might work for some of those guys to get started. There's always pivot corners as a possibility if it's, feasible for that. It just depends. But getting the word out is the hard part, and I understand that. But that's a great suggestion. How do we connect those that want to get started to those that might have some land that would be available? Other comments or questions or suggestions? That was a great one. Thank you.
Yeah. I was going to say, I like how that's an example of what you were talking about with the networking at different trainings, even if they're just over the phone.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Well, if there are no other questions, I do want to say a hearty thank you, Jim. That was a lot of wonderful information. And we will, if you want to re-listen to this, I will be sending everybody a recording of the audio. So if you were taking notes but you didn't quite get something down, you'll be able to go back and listen to it. Another thank you also to Dawson Public Power District for sponsoring this. And if you are interested in next month's Third Thursday training, we are going to be talking about loans that are based on more than just your credit score. So if you're looking for funding information, that would be a great training to attend. We'll also be having trainings here at the end of July in Wayne and Columbus. So if you or somebody you know in one of those areas is looking for information on marketing, strategy, and the technical aspects, those would be great workshops to attend. So I hope everybody has a great day, and thank you for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.